In the last video, I showed you 10 cities that have seen the steepest population declines from their peaks with one rule. That rule being that a city had to have 50,000 people at one point in time. Well, this time we're going to forget that rule.
Goodbye.
We're going to take a look at the 10 cities that have lost the most population since their peak when going by percentage with no population limit. We're going to look at the straight up facts. What up, straight up facts? The last video featured only cities from the Midwest and the Northeast. This one, we're going to head west a little bit. Let's see what cities make this list. Number 10 is Mahanoy City, Pennsylvania.
Is that even a real place?
You can't spell Mahanoy City without nah, as in, nah, I'm good.
Bruh.
Located off of I-81 about 40 minutes southwest of Wilkes-Barre, Mahanoy City thrived as a coal mining town. Originally, the town saw a huge increase in people to work in the coal mines in the area. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, Central PA was among the top coal mining regions in America. Not anymore. This helped Mahanoy City grow to a population of nearly 16,000 by 1910. By the 1950s, however, all of the major coal mines in the area closed, and the city has never recovered. Since then, the only digging around here has been the population graph. The population has declined over time to being as low as 3,544, a 77.76% decrease from its 1910 peak. To make matters worse, Mahanoy City was the site of a toxic waste dump. Over 40 years ago, government officials shut down a toxic waste site in a nearby abandoned coal mine where there were 7,000 storage drums of toxic waste left behind. The storage drums were leaking chemicals, so anytime that it rained, those chemicals would get drained into the drinking water sources for the area.
Gross.
The site was a Superfund site, until it wasn't, and the government claimed that it had all been cleaned up. Many locals believe that not all of the toxic chemicals were cleaned up though, and claim that their cancer rates are higher than average. Number 9 is East St. Louis, Illinois.
Been there, done that.
East St. Louis had many of the same industries as St. Louis, Missouri across the river: meatpacking, steel making, coal mining, aluminum making, and several others. It was all a major trading point for agricultural products throughout central Illinois as well. All of the railroads had to go through East St. Louis before they crossed the river west into St. Louis, so that made it a prime location for industry. So yeah, East St. Louis, it had everything going for it. Until it didn't, because East St. Louis saw its population peak at 82,000 in 1950, but in the 1970s, the factories started to lay off workers and in some cases, close altogether. Not only did the factories leave, but the people did too, and the city took a huge hit to its tax base. Today, East St. Louis is down to 17,000, a decline of 79.2%. You can blame it on white flight, you can blame it on the race riots, you can blame it on the decline of industrial manufacturing jobs, you can blame it on the crime. East St. Louis was never able to modernize its economy, and it being in the state of Illinois doesn't help either. For companies, it's much more affordable for them to set up shop in the St. Louis suburbs on the Missouri side than it is for them to operate on the Illinois side. For the residents, the property taxes are much more reasonable on the Missouri side than they are on the Illinois side, and you're not really getting much extra by paying more for living in Illinois.
Bruh.
Sorry, but it's true, especially for the Metro East region.
Damn.
And yes, that was a copy and paste from the script on the last list video, but let's get moving. Yeah, what's behind door number 8? Let's go! Just across the Mississippi River is number 8, Wellston, Missouri.
Been there, done that.
Wellston is a tiny and empty St. Louis suburb. The city has faced many of the same issues as inner city St. Louis, and East St. Louis for that matter. Wellston saw a peak population of 9,596 back in 1950, but today, that number is down to 1,615, good for an 83.17% decline from its peak population. When industry was at its peak in the 1950s, Wellston supported a strong working class population. The community was densely populated and things were going good. Until they weren't. Back in those days, much of America was segregated, including the St. Louis area. By 1970, most of the wealthier white class had moved away to newer suburbs in St. Louis County, while the poorer black community moved to Wellston after being displaced from other St. Louis neighborhoods that were being redeveloped or torn down from freeway construction. Screw it, we'll just call it white flight. Yep, white flight, because that's what it is. Don't mean to offend anybody. Well, to offend some more people, Wellston has continued to lose people, so I guess you could say a more accurate term these days would be black flight?
That's gotta be racist.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course. Yeah. Can't say anything right anymore these days. Screw it. Time for a word from our sponsors.
This video is brought to you by the official 1-800 number for people who are offended by YouTubers. We understand the unbearable emotional trauma of watching a free video online. That's why we created a hotline staffed by highly trained professionals. Well, professionally trained to pretend to care. Call 1-800-555-5555 now to get the validation you absolutely deserve.
Number 7 is Shenandoah, Pennsylvania.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, we're just going to zigzag all over the map here, back to the same part of PA that we were just in earlier. Shenandoah, PA is just up the road from Mahanoy City. Once again, coal mining activity largely came to an end in the 1950s, and Shenandoah's population peaked in 1910 at nearly 26,000, so much larger than Mahanoy City ever was. Today, however, the population is down to just above 4,000, a decline of 83.51%. Shenandoah went from a town that powered America to a place that can barely power a streetlight. When the coal dried up, so did the paychecks, and apparently everyone's patience too. What's left is a handful of folks that are stubborn enough to stick around and watch their houses slowly outlive them. It's kind of poetic, if you're into tragic poetry. No, Shenandoah is one of many places that are like that. There's a lot of these dying small towns all across America where people don't want to move. They don't want to change. They don't want any change of scenery. They don't want to move anywhere. They're fine just where they are and they want to stick it out. So, hey, it is what it is. Well, next we're going to hop across the country, but this time we're going to go even further west. Number 6 is Tonopah, Nevada.
Is that even a real place?
Despite the population decline, this place actually isn't as depressing as the others that we've seen so far on this list. These days, Tonopah has a touristy, old western town feel to it. It's far away from any other civilization, so if you're going to visit, you'll have to drive about 3 hours northwest from Vegas.
Good luck with that.
Well, I did, so you didn't have to, and this is mostly what I saw. Tonopah is nicknamed the Queen of the Silver Camps, so that tells you everything that you need to know. But to fill time, I'll continue to expand on that. In 1900, silver deposits were discovered here, and it turned into one of the larger silver mining towns in all of Nevada. By 1901, Tonopah had 6 saloons, restaurants, lodging, doctors, lawyers, and a population of 650. By 1910, they claimed that the population was 10,000. Although there was never an official count, at least not what I could find. Anyway, over the years, the population has fluctuated, but the latest estimates show that the population today is 1,602, a decline of 83.89%. Today, there's a silver mining museum, and there's still some actual silver mining activity in the area as well. The economy is made up of a nearby military test range, along with the tourism and service industries. So, if you ever find yourself driving through Nevada, maybe you'll stumble across this town and take a break from the road and spend some time here. Or maybe not. Number 5 is Highland Park, Michigan.
Been there, done that.
I can tell you this, Highland Park isn't served by the tourism industry these days, and it likely never will be.
Bruh.
Highland Park has fallen on tough times. That's putting it nicely. Back when Chrysler was its own company, Chrysler had its headquarters in this city. When they left for fancy schmancy Auburn Hills, what up, Malice at the Palace? It depleted the tax base for Highland Park even more. Highland Park is an enclave of Detroit, and it's been hit hard with a number of factors over the years, including white flight, crime, and deindustrialization. Highland Park was the location of Henry Ford's second assembly plant, and it's where a bunch of Model Ts were assembled back in the day. The building still stands today, but of course, it's vacant. In 1930, Highland Park saw a peak population that was just shy of 53,000. Today, it's home to only 8,000 people, a decline of 84.7%. Really, you can look at Highland Park as being another inner-city neighborhood of Detroit, as they both have faced some of the same hardships. The only difference is that Highland Park doesn't receive the grant money that Detroit does to help clean up the blight. Neither does Highland Park have the tax base that Detroit does. Kind of sad, and honestly, I don't think that Highland Park will be its own city for much longer, as it continues to see a steep decline year after year after year. It might just get annexed by Detroit. Or it might not, because then the question is, would Detroit want to annex Highland Park? It'll be interesting to see, only time will tell. Meanwhile, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you don't, the next time you head through Detroit, the GPS will reroute you through Highland Park because, let's face it, karma is real. So just like the video already.
Just do it!
Thanks. Number 4 is Homestead, PA.
Never heard of it.
Back to Pennsylvania we go, but this time we're in the Pittsburgh metro area. Homestead is a city just off of the Monongahela River, or as lazy Pittsburgh news anchors say, the Mon River. Just kidding, people. And it used to be home to a large steel mill called the Homestead Steel Works, which eventually ended up being operated by the almighty U.S. Steel. After that was built in 1896, Homestead saw a large increase in immigrants looking for jobs at the factory. Because of course, employment peaked at 15,000 during World War II, and in 1920, Homestead supported a peak population of over 20,000 residents. The plant closed in 1986, but at that point, employment numbers were already down drastically. The factory was demolished, and in 1999, a new waterfront development full of retail took its place, and to this day, the shopping area appears to be doing quite well. Not the neighborhoods, though, because the city has continued to see sharp declines in population. The population is now below 3,000, good for a decline of 86.14%. Homestead is really a part of a string of smaller municipalities that line the Monongahela River that have seen similar decline, all for the same reasons, with the decline of the U.S. steel industry. Number 3 is Cairo, Illinois.
Been there, done that.
Cairo is probably the saddest looking town that you'll ever see in the Midwest. For now. Soon you probably won't see any remnants of Cairo. You know, I'd be shocked if this place doesn't completely disappear off of the map one day. Damn. Cairo sits at the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. The name is pronounced Cairo, I'm told, by the comments section of my very old video of Cairo, but through other documentaries, I hear it being pronounced like Caro, like how I have been saying it. So is it Caro or Cairo? Let me know down below if you know. One thing that we know for sure is that it's not pronounced as Cairo, as in the city in Egypt, even though Cairo, Illinois is named after the city in Egypt. Which leads me to this. Southern Illinois is nicknamed as Little Egypt. The Ohio and Mississippi River confluence is thought to resemble that of the Nile River Delta in Egypt. By the mid-1850s, Cairo was a busy port for steamboats traveling along both rivers. Back then, major rivers were America's highways, so it only made sense to have a city at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio. And once railroads arrived, that only helped the economy thrive even more. There were a few manufacturers in town, but mostly it was a transportation hub. While racial tensions from the 1930s and 60s led towards the Cairo Riot of 1967, which resulted in major violence. Cairo was already starting to decline in population at the time, but when the riots happened, that's when the real declines started to occur. The population peaked at over 15,000 back in 1920, but today, it's down to only 1,452. That's a decline of 90.45%. Damn. Oh, and while we're here, you might as well throw nearby Mounds and Mound City in with Cairo. Mounds saw a peak population of 2,661 back in 1920, 100 years later, and it's down to 590, good for a 77.83% population decline. Mound City, on the other hand, had a peak population of 2,837, and now it's down to 468, good for an 83.5% population decline. Well, it's hard to believe that there are two cities higher on this list, but it's true, and next, we head west to the Rocky Mountains. Number 2 is Leadville, Colorado.
Been there, done that.
As the name suggests, Leadville was a lead mining town. Not just lead, but there was also gold and silver mining here as well. The last mines closed in 1999. Today, it's more so of a tourist trap up in the mountains, 10,000 feet up in the mountains at that. It's also home to the unforgiving Leadville 100, an ultra marathon that takes runners through a 100-mile course that climbs and descends 15,744 feet. There's also a mountain bike version of the race. Runners must complete the race within 30 hours, and most years, less than half of the participants meet the time limit. Getting a heart attack from running the Leadville 100 isn't the only health risk in this town, as you can also inhale leftover lead dust from its years as being a huge lead mining town. Unfortunately so. Some sources say that Leadville's peak population was as high as 30,000 in 1880, others say that it was 20,000, others say that it was 14,000. But they all seem to agree that it was 1880. It all depends on who you want to believe. I chose 30,000 because it's more extreme for this list. What is factual is that in 2010, Leadville's population hit rock bottom at 2,602. Since then, it's grown by a couple dozen people, and it doesn't look like a ghost town at all. It more so just looks like a tourist trap. So, hey, if you ever find yourself driving through, hey, why not check it out? So what could be the number 1 city on this list? If I were a city that has seen the largest percentage decrease from a peak population, where on the map would I be? Number 1 is Braddock, Pennsylvania.
I'm number 1.
This place certainly isn't a tourist trap like Leadville, more like a lifelong poverty trap for the people who stay. Braddock is along the almighty Monongahela, a river that's heavily featured on both this list and the previous list video that I made. In 1875, the construction of the Edgar Thomson Steel Works was completed, and the steel mill has been in operation ever since. Considering all of the other towns along the Monongahela River and all the steel manufacturing that has declined, it's amazing that the plant here in Braddock is still open. Today it has only 400 employees, which is a far cry from its peak employment, which we could probably assume was in the 20 to 30,000 range maybe, if not, definitely 15,000. The steel mill helped Braddock support a population that was just shy of 21,000 back in 1920. 100 years later, and the city has declined to a population of 1,636, good for a decline of 92.16%. 21,000 to 1,636. Wow. Well, there's many steel towns in western PA that have seen extreme decline, but Braddock tops them all. So there you have it, the 10 cities that have seen the sharpest decline, regardless of size, here in America. Wait, hold on. What's that? Okay, well, I guess I lied, people. I'm a liar. Believe it or not, there's one more city that tops all of the others on this list. The real number 1 is Kinloch, Missouri.
Been there, done that.
Is it really number 1 though? Because today Kinloch isn't really a city anymore. It's really just a mattress firm dumping grounds, you know? The city is due east of the St. Louis Lambert International Airport. It's also home to a few large warehouses, surprisingly. Kinloch saw a peak population of 6,500 back in 1960. Today, only 263 call the place home, good for a decline of 95.95%. Soon, Kinloch probably won't have anybody living here. I mean, come on, half of the streets are blocked off by mattresses, 40% are blocked off by fallen trees, and the other 10% are probably soon going to be blocked off. I don't mean to disrespect the history of the city, and there is some history there, but Kinloch developed as being the first African-American incorporated city in the state of Missouri. At first, it was a working-class suburb, but not anymore.
Nope.
In the 1980s, the city of St. Louis started to buy out the property in Kinloch as a part of a noise abatement program for the airport. Between 1990 and 2000, the city lost 83% of its population. Kinloch then became known as a community that was full of crime and drugs. Throughout this time, Kinloch police officers were arrested on corruption charges as well. You know, the place was a complete disaster, and these days, there's not much left. There have been efforts by local community groups to rebuild the city, but if you ask me, it's kind of hard to see that ever happening. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and I've been wrong before, maybe I'll be wrong again. But I've also been right, and maybe I'll be right again. Well, there you have it, guys. I guess 11 cities, with the extra bonus at the end, that have seen the sharpest population decline in America when going off of percentage. Well, speaking of Kinloch, I actually made a whole video on that place, and you can watch it right here. Hope to see you there. Peace.